On June 17, 1971, President Richard Nixon declared drugs public enemy number one.
Okay, right off the bat, I can't hear you at all over the Beethoven, so I'm gonna have to use an AI to strip it out. I'd much rather strip out you and listen to the Beethoven, but here we are.
As he told Congress, if we cannot destroy the drug menace in America, it will surely in time destroy us.
And it turns out your microphone is crap, so I still can't really hear you. Really, there are decent mics basically in every device these days. How do you make your audio this bad in 2025? So I'm running it through another AI to clean it up. What a time to be alive!
Today, however, the war on drugs is considered a failure, a catastrophe.
There we go, much better. Now the only thing crappy about this guy's video will be his arguments.
If people want to use drugs, that's their choice. It's called freedom, dang it. But drug addiction is not freedom. It's slavery.
But as I've repeatedly shown, the war on drugs does nothing to solve the problem of addiction. If anything, it just makes it worse.
Do you think the homeless guy lying on the floor of a dark crack house who can't stop using cocaine, who will never be able to find a job or provide for his family, is free?
Well, I think he'd be a lot more free if he didn't have to go to the streets for his drugs and could do it in a place where he could also get treatment for whatever underlying condition is driving the addiction.
But Arthur, as long as they're not hurting anyone, it's none of your business. People have a right to ruin their own lives. Except they're not just ruining their own lives. No man is an island.
Oh, please save us from these no man is an island wackos. Come on! You could use that brainless retort to justify anything!
There is no such thing as a victimless crime.
Yes, there is. You can't go making things illegal just because you don't like them. All of your bloviating about all the other people they're hurting is an excuse. If you really cared about these other people getting hurt, you'd want the war on drugs to end, because then it'd be a lot easier for the person to get help and manage their addiction.
The war on drugs was actually based
on stupid. The next 30 seconds of his video is a Breaking Bad clip where he thought he was clever by sticking Nixon's face over Gus's head. What he was trying to get across is a mystery solved only in his demented mind. Here's a question. Would the whole Breaking Bad thing have happened at all if there were no war on drugs and meth could have been made by private companies with proper dosage control who don't act like criminal mobs shooting everyone else?
Arthur, you don't understand. Banning stuff doesn't work because people will just buy it on the black market. That's probably the most common argument against banning drugs, but if you think about it for more than 5 seconds, it's incredibly stupid.
No, I thought about it for a lot more than 5 seconds, and you're incredibly stupid.
The point is not to eradicate every single ounce of cocaine from the face of the earth. The point is to reduce the amount of addicts as much as possible.
And the war on drugs does not do that.
And banning drugs does that.
Citation absolutely needed. Why, after all these decades of the war on drugs, is the addiction rate of the population still 1.3%? Exactly what it was back when drugs were legal.
Imagine two worlds. In one world, cocaine is perfectly legal. You can just walk into Walmart and buy some.
Already did. Posted the video earlier this week, in fact. It was a 7-Eleven, actually, but same idea.
In the other world, cocaine is illegal, so you have to find a dealer, you have to meet up with him in secret, and you have to pay him extra because he's taking the risk of going to jail. In which world are you less likely to buy cocaine?
Empirically, the second one. Because the war on drugs only increased sales of drugs, increased the potency, increased the danger.
Obviously, you're way less likely to buy it if it's illegal because you're afraid of getting in trouble.
Oh my God, have you ever even fucking left your house?
It's more expensive.
When you account for potency, black market opioids are thousands of times cheaper than they were before the war on drugs began.
This is the most obvious thing in the history of the world, but for some reason, academics and politicians think that banning drugs doesn't work.
Yeah, why do all of these experts not believe something that's the most obvious thing in the history of the world? It can't be because studying it led them to information I don't have and led them to see how counterintuitive life can be sometimes. I mean, if we all came from apes, why are there still apes? Why do those stupid evolution experts not see that? And some people who get vaccinated still get the disease. Do these stupid immunologists not know this? And why do these stupid economists think you can raise revenues by lowering the tax rate? Stupid experts.
If we ban abortion, women will just get abortions on the black market. Okay, maybe a few will, but how many women are really willing to risk being convicted of murder?
Why don't you look back at the period before Roe v. Wade? Yes, they really were willing to take that risk.
And where do you even go to get these black market abortions? Do you really think millions of women will risk entering the criminal underworld?
Why not? They did before.
If you buy this argument that banning stuff doesn't work, why have any laws at all? Why not legalize hitmen since people will just hire them on the black market anyway? Why not legalize child since people will just find it on the dark web anyway? You see how crazy that sounds?
Yes, you sound completely batshit crazy.
Another problem is that legalizing something normalizes it.
Ah, for the absolute love of, there's nothing illegal about having an eating disorder, but that's not normalized in society, is it? What about hoarding? No law against it, but it's extremely frowned upon, and people who do it might find themselves the subject of an intervention by their family or even eviction by their landlord. Although you can't marry more than one person, polyamory itself isn't illegal. You can have as many romantic partners as you want, and yet it's very frowned upon most places. I can go on all day. Here's a hint. You might want to spend more than 5 seconds thinking about things.
Just look at states where weed is legal.
I'll do better than that. I'll look at Portugal. In 2001, they decriminalized possession and use of all drugs, including heroin and cocaine. Morons like you said it would lead to increased drug use, but the opposite happened. Drug use among young people decreased, as did overdose deaths and HIV infections. And guess what? Addicts are getting treatment now, like they weren't able to before.
But Arthur, don't you remember the prohibition? The government banned alcohol and people just bought it on the black market. Okay, listen, I'm not a fan of the prohibition. I think alcohol is a good thing. It's a social lubricant and a fun tradition.
Oh, so you like your drugs? It's other people's drugs that are bad. Listen, moron! Every single argument you can make against drugs, you can make against alcohol in spades! Whereas fentanyl kills 75,000 Americans a year, alcohol kills 170,000. In addition, alcohol is insanely addictive, and unlike even most harder drugs, can change your brain chemistry to make you become potentially violent. They say that's true of cocaine when it isn't, but we all know it's the case with alcohol, don't we? How many domestic disturbances have alcohol involved?
But it is not true that the prohibition didn't work. It did work.
Oh, I see. You're a lunatic.
According to Dr. Blocker in the American Journal of Public Health, once prohibition became the law of the land, many citizens decided to obey it. Prohibition did work in lowering per capita consumption. We know this because there was a decrease in deaths from alcohol abuse and arrests for drunkenness.
Well, you finally cited a source. And that's your big mistake, because I check sources. That was the effect only for the first few years of prohibition. By his own data, which he tried to minimize, things normalized after that and then went into high gear when the Great Depression hit. Go look at the hundreds of papers that cite Blocker's paper. They do not agree with him. The overwhelming consensus is that everything you just said is wrong, and Blocker had to make a caricature of the data to make his case. You can always find that one study by that one moron to make your case, especially when there are political points to be scored.
The law can govern people's behavior. That's why we have the law in the first place.
No, we have laws to protect people from aggressing against others. The moment we step beyond that, we get authoritarian tyranny. He pretty much goes off the rails from here, giving easily debunked statistics and even trying to make it about slavery, when, of course, slavery could only be maintained by legal fiat, as we've covered here on this channel many times. After several minutes of that crap, he finally turns to addicts.
The last argument I want to address is that banning drugs makes it harder for addicts to get help, because they're ashamed and they're afraid of the police, so they don't tell anyone about their problem. First of all, even if that's true, I care more about preventing people from becoming addicts in the first place.
And it's still 1.3%. No matter what you do, it ends up being 1.3%.
But also, the fact that addicts will be ashamed and afraid could actually make them more likely to get help. They might think, oh my gosh, I'm breaking the law, I'm doing this horrible taboo thing, I need to get help.
I don't know what world this dunce is living in, but it isn't the real one. What actually happens is that addicts are scared to get help because they don't want to get arrested and go to jail. And that's what normally happens anyway. They're thrown in jail where they won't get treatment and will only suffer psychological conditions that will make their addiction worse. I don't really know what you need to debunk this video other than to have gone outside of your mom's basement once in a while and seen how the real world operates. Prostitution is illegal, yet you still see streetwalkers out in the open in various places. Gambling is illegal, yet you still have dice in the alley, and lots of guys come together for their weekly poker game. And then there's all the things he didn't cover, like civil asset forfeiture, where people who had nothing to do with drugs have their cars and even their houses seized without being charged with any crime at all. Or patients with real needs, like chronic or post-op pain, being denied painkillers because of the fear of the DEA cracking down on doctors, hospitals, and pharmacies. Or how the drugs are more dangerous, more potent, with no dosage control, and cut with all sorts of crap. Or all of the actual criminals, murderers, rapists, and molesters being let go because prisons are overcrowded because of all the non-violent drug offenders. In other words, every single argument we've made against the war on drugs, ignored all over again in favor of the naive ramblings of some little snot-nose who can't even get his audio right! So thanks for watching. Please hit like and subscribe, leave a comment, and go to donate.pagosity.tv to keep me doing what I do. And check out all the great content here, like this video selected just for you.